Good evening, everybody. My name is Alan Kingsley. I am one of the academic success counselors for the MBA program here at Post. And thank you so much for attending tonight, our Capstone conference call for this upcoming Term 6. With me this evening is one of our program chairs, Dr. Jim Lochran, and our Capstone instructors, Dr. Prakash Menon and Dr. Wayne Ems. Dr. Lochran, I am so happy to see people here, so many people here tonight, and I'm going to hand this off to you to get everything going.
Great. Thank you very much, Alan. And I'll just introduce myself. My name is Dr. Jim Lochran. I'm program chair overseeing several portions of the MBA, including the Capstone. And this Capstone, I'm very proud of all of you for getting to this point because it shows that you've put in a lot of hard work, and only about somewhere between 8 and 10% of the U.S. population has a master's degree, earned one. And so you should be very proud of yourself. The undergrad degree is somewhere close to 40, depending which state you live in, and much closer to 8-9% in with the master's degree. So you've really put yourself in a different group for hiring and promotion, and certainly a master's degree does not guarantee you anything, but it certainly increases your odds and certainly can put you in for positions that you may not have had an opportunity before. And as a hiring manager in the past, I would always put the graduate level folks ahead of the others, right or wrong. At least take a look at it. I didn't always hire them, but I certainly would always examine them more closely. So be proud of your accomplishments. We know it's not easy. We also know that most of you have many other responsibilities, including full-time work and perhaps family obligations and other things that you do. And at the same time, you manage to get through a program that isn't easy. So, and especially in the world we live in today. So I'm proud of you, and I know the two instructors that are on the call are as well. And so this next term, in term 6, we have 2 courses running for the Capstone, and both instructors are here. So you're going to have one or the other. At this moment, we have 10 students each, or approximately 10 students in each course. And so what we're going to do tonight is we're going to go through and explain the course, how the course is organized, things you have to consider, some secrets of success and things that you can do now to get ready for the course, and how to be successful in it. And the course is set up differently than your other courses, but you're going to apply what you learned, and I'll explain what I mean by apply. But everything in this course is really focused on taking what you've learned and doing something with it, which is the highest level of learning. So we're going to be applying, but we're also going to be creating, and I'll explain that. Creating is the highest level of learning. So there's no textbook in this class at all. And so the material that you're going to be using is material that you've learned throughout the program. You're going to see some connections to past courses to help you, remind you of some of the courses that you've had throughout the program. But most of what you're going to be focused on will be working on with a team and running a simulated company, which I'll explain, and then also doing a capstone project, which is something you pick, and you're going to be utilizing your past coursework to be able to create this proposal or business plan that you decide that you want to focus on. Before I get there, I'd like to introduce both instructors this evening. So let's start with Dr. Menon. Would you like to introduce yourself and just tell a little bit about how long you've been teaching the Capstone and a little bit about your background?
Sure, Jim. Thank you. My name is Prakash Menon, and I've been with Post for close to 12 years now. And specifically, the Capstone course, I think it's evolved over the years, and I've been teaching that for over 6 or 7 years now. And it's been a very fascinating experience for me to connect with each of the students. As I see here, some of them have been in my earlier classes, so it's nice to connect with all of you again during your capstone journey. And I'm here to make the process very successful for you. So here to mentor you, to help you through the capstone project. So do not hesitate to reach out anytime if you have any questions. Thank you, Jim.
Great, thank you. Dr. Ems.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Lochran. My background is finance. I spent some 30 plus years with Canada's largest bank. I guess I should have said right off the start, I live in Ottawa, in Ontario, Canada. So I'm not totally familiar with the Waterbury area. I've been teaching the capstone since I think 2016. So if you take 6 sessions a year, that probably gives me somewhere around 30 plus times that I've taught the capstone. I do have some points that I want to weave in, Dr. Lochran, once you've done an overview of the capsum, and then I have some other suggestions I'd like to weave in as far as the project goes. But as far as just my introduction, as I say, my background was the last 12 years with the bank. I was a project manager, so I have a real passion for project management, and I in the classes that I've taught at Post, it seems like at least a third of the students are project management concentration. So I have a real fondness for project management. So I'll leave it at that. And as I said, I do have some suggestions as they relate to the capsum section, and then some suggestions as far as they relate to the project.
Okay, great. Well, thank you very much. And we'll give both of you opportunities and the students opportunities to ask questions as well. So this course is broken up into 4 components. There's a virtual team that you'll be working in a team. So since we have 10 students in the class, approximately 10, and that could change, most likely it'll be about 5 students on a team and 2 different teams in the class, but that could change if we got an extra couple students or a couple drop, but that would be typical. And some of you already feel angst when I said virtual teams because you've had bad experiences or don't like, having to rely on others for your grade and so on. And I will tell you that we feel at Post that virtual teams is a very important aspect of MBA learning. And the reason is that most of you, either you are or will or used to work on a virtual team because of the pandemic. And my guess is you're going to continue in some way work with virtual teams. And so that skill level is even more important than it ever has been. And so I want you to really think about the skills that you would use in your organization to work with others. We have students from all over the country and sometimes the world in this course. And so being able to work with them and pick times that you can meet that respects everybody's time zone and everybody's situation the very best you can, and respect differences. And those differences can mean a lot of different things, but understanding that you may have different backgrounds, both professionally and personally, that to me, diversity brings excellence into teams and helps for innovation and so on. And so I'm always excited about teams, and in this capstone course overall, we have very strong teams. They tend to get along very well together because everybody's highly motivated to get through this. This is going to likely be the last course for everybody in this class. So people are inspired to get through. And so the virtual team will be used to work on the capsum. And the capsum is a program that we use to allow you to run your own company. And when I say your own, I'm referring to your team for the first several weeks of the course. is that you're going to be running a simulated company. In this case, you'll be selling sensors, a business to business, and you're going to be making decisions as a team. And we call those decisions rounds. And you start with a practice round, 2 of them that we do. And so those practice rounds really help you just kind of navigate the simulation. We know there's a learning curve. There's a manual there to help you understand how to navigate. And usually the first week or so is when students feel the most angst because they're just kind of learning how to navigate that simulation. But we provide you a link where in an announcement that you'll get a link, and you click that link, and then you'll go to the simulation, and you'll be able to key in all your information, and you'll be able to navigate it. And so inside that simulation, you're going to find data. You're going to find your team members that'll be in there. And as I said, you're going to have approximately 5 other folks, or 4 other folks that will be with you, and you're going to be making decisions. And so those decisions are called rounds. As I had 2 practice rounds, and then you'll be going into 5 what we call competition rounds. And those rounds, you'll be making decisions about the company. And these decisions would be the same decisions that you would make if you were a senior executive in an organization. And so you're going to be making decisions around marketing. And I would say the marketing decisions are some of the most important. You have multiple products that you sell on these sensors, and you have to decide what segment you're going to sell to, at what price, what features are you going to have with that product, and how much you're going to produce. And so operations management's another important aspect, because you have to decide how much you're going to produce in each round. And just like in the real world, you want to keep that inventory level low, but you don't want to run out. Ideally, you'd want to end with every product ending with 1. That's never going to happen, but that would be a great goal, because the teams that struggle tend to have very high inventory levels. And so I would say that is the number 1 issue why teams are not profitable, is they have too much inventory. That's the most likely reason. Now, running out of something is also not good, just like in the real world, because you're giving your business to somebody else. If you can't sell it, people are going to find someone else. And so you're going to have likely 1 other team that you'll be competing with, I would say, for in your class, because you're only going to have 10 students, so you have 2 teams. But you'll also have computer teams. And so they're going to be generated by the computer, and you'll have 1 other student team that you'll have. And so as you're going through, you'll be making decisions. You're going to be able to see what the other team did after each round, as far as their profitability, their inventory levels, their margin, and so on. And so there's a report called the Capstone Courier, which is, there are many, many reports, but that one is the one that gives you a lot of key information. After each round, including the practice rounds, your professor will give you some general feedback, the team feedback, kind of what you did well, what you can improve, some ideas, not necessarily how to improve, but where you had some opportunities. We can never tell you how to fix your issue. So you can't go to the professor, and occasionally we have students that'll say, "Professor, please tell us how to fix our inventory issue," or "What's wrong? Why can't we sell our product?" We want you to work as a team and figure this out, just like you would in any organization, and really be able to dissect the issue and get to the underlying issue. Is it a marketing issue? So as I said, marketing is it's an operational issue. Is it a human resource issue, or is it a quality issue? So you're going to be making human resource decisions. You'll be making decisions on how much overtime that you'll be using, second shift. If you need second shift, will you be doing those kind of things? You'll also have to make very important quality decisions, and couples couple terms ago, we had a team that was really struggling with their quality. And I had a student email me and said, I do not understand. We have a great, we have a product that's perfect marketing. I know it's serving all the needs. Why is quality so important? My answer to that is you can't sell something that is nobody wants, no matter what great price it is. If it's poor, if you have the lowest level of quality of all your competitors, why would anyone want it, no matter what the price was? And so, that's kind of a business 101 lesson. And so, yes, quality is extremely important and rated very highly in here. And you'll be able to see this in the Capstone Courier report, your quality level on all the products. So each time you make a decision, it's called round. There's 5 rounds. Your professor will give you feedback. You'll be working in the group discussion board in in Blackboard, and that's where you will, decide, discuss things, and so on. Most teams use other methods to communicate. And that's just something you have to decide as a team what those methods would be. But everything from apps to you can use Collaborate, or that's built into Blackboard, or if some of you have Zoom accounts, or whatever you decide, whatever method is best for the team. But communication is key. It's imperative that you're communicating well together. And again, what we have found is the teams that struggle are the ones that have the least amount of communication. And so it's important to have dialogue, to discuss, to appreciate others' ideas, even those that are different than yours. I also want to stress that you'll have 2 opportunities to evaluate your peers, and they'll be able to evaluate you. It's inside the simulation. We give you dates when those are due, and they're confidential, and you get to evaluate your peers, and that will affect your overall score. The number one reason somebody does not pass this course is poor peer reviews. Now, we don't get many, and I can't remember the last time, but it's been a few terms where we had somebody get really bad scores. We've had a couple times where students say, well, I have to rely on the team. I'm just too busy. Well, can you imagine that in a real organization? Say, you know what, I'm too busy to make these decisions, so you guys just make it. How would that work if you were a senior leader in an organization? So it's imperative that you are engaged throughout. And so with this simulation, as you're going through and making all these rounds, you need to know when those due dates are. And so the instructor will give you the due dates for the rounds way ahead of time. You'll know when this class starts. And so you guys can come up with a plan. We also ask you early on in the class to come up with a charter, basically a set of rules that you guys are going to live by as a team. And so within those rules, kind of who's going to do what, I highly recommend that you have some sort of captain or some kind of leader that you select that could kind of not do everything, but certainly help and organize things to make sure that things are getting done. And so you are going to decide as a team how you want to enter the information in, when it's going to be done, as long as it meets those deadlines for the 5 different rounds, the competition rounds, including the 2 of the practice rounds. So 2 different peer reviews, 5 competition rounds, 2 practice rounds. You're running a simulated company. You're doing 2 papers also while you're doing this as a team. And these papers are basically communicating what's going on in the organization. What aren't you doing well? What are you doing well? What do you plan to change? And what's interesting about this simulation is we grade you based on what and how you communicate your issues, not necessarily your performance. So if you're not happy with your performance, as long as you can articulate what you're doing well and how you're going to improve, you will likely do pretty well on those papers as long as they're written well. And so it's important to be able to understand what your issues are, and more importantly, how are you going to improve them. So with the simulation, it is, as I said, a third party. You're given a link. You'll be able to get to that link through an announcement. You'll be able to kind of play around here from the beginning. When you get to the class, that announcement will already be there for you. And so you can get there and start moving around and getting used to it and understanding to navigate. If you're stuck, you're like, I don't know how to even navigate this. I'm really confused on the manual. I tried to read it. There is a phone number that is a toll-free number that you can contact the Capstone simulation 9 to 9, Monday through Friday Eastern time. And I find that they're excellent at helping students. Again, they're not going to tell you the right answer or how to fix the issue, but they will help you navigate or explain what something means and so on. That's the quickest way to get your answers. If you email either instructor and expect them to give you an answer in 20 minutes because you're stuck, that's not a good strategy. But if you call that number between 9 and 9, you will get a quick answer. I've not had many times where I had to wait very long with them. I find their service to be excellent. If it's on an odd time and you're working on the weekend, you can send them an email. We do provide the email as well. And I found that they respond weekends and nights after they're closed, early mornings, within a relatively adequate amount of time. But normally, if you send an email at 6 o'clock in the morning, they usually respond after they're open at 9. But on the weekend, I have found, during the day that they respond within a couple hours. So that's the simulation in a nutshell. And all in all, most students enjoy it once they get used to it, navigating it, and it really does feel like real life. But you have to be able to work together, and you have to make financial decisions and understand what the numbers mean. And so it is a highly quantitative process. A couple terms ago, I had a student that was in an HR field send an email. I don't think it's fair that we have to do anything with numbers or any financial information at all because I'm in HR and this is ridiculous. We don't deal with finance. And I don't know if you could guess my answer to that, but no matter what position you are affected by financial aspects of the organization, and especially human resources, and having an understanding of important decisions, whether those decisions are operations or those decisions are related to the amount of inventory or how many folks that are going to work second shift, all those affect human resources. So it's important that you have an understanding, a respect for what the numbers mean. I'm going to stop for a minute and talk to each instructor. Dr. Menon, anything you'd like to add to the simulation?
Nothing in specific. Why is there an echo? Is there an echo now?
I can hear you just fine.
Okay. So I think you covered pretty much in detail, Jim, and only thing is the support is something that you touched upon, and I found many students have taken up on that to call them and get some help to navigate and stuff like that. So it's a very, very supportive structure they have. I think they're based in Chicago, so you can call them, I think 9 to 9 Eastern. And one thing I tell my students during the simulation is there's a lot of literature available on the Capstone site. So read all that, and there are a lot of videos that you can watch, and you'll try to understand what the simulation is actually doing. By viewing those videos, you'll get a very good understanding of that. So try to spend some time on that, and the practice runs give you a good head start too. So do take those things seriously and finally work as a team. Thanks, Jim.
Mm-hmm. Dr. Ems.
Thank you. A couple of things. You did a great job of covering the main points of it. There are a couple of things that I do recommend to the students. Number one, there's a document called a Capstone Team Member Guide. You will find that in the Unit 1 materials. I strongly recommend that students, at a minimum, download it. Even better if you print it. It's a little over 20 pages, so it is a few pages, but there's so much information in there, and it'll really help you to get a good grasp on sort of the ins and outs of the simulation. So I do recommend downloading and printing the team member guide. In addition, you mentioned that there's a area for the students to work, and it's called the group section. What you want to do with that group area is, even though the simulation doesn't really get started until week 2, in week 1, I do recommend that students go in and post their personal information. So phone numbers, email addresses, and sort of best times to meet. So do that right away. I think if you want to get off to a good start, meet as early as possible within your group team areas. I think that's a good way to get an early start on it. You'll probably find that maybe in the first couple of rounds, the 2 practice rounds, and maybe round 1, even round 2, you might want to hold face-to-face meetings. I think it really helps if you can, you're talking to the person and you can actually see the reactions on people's faces. It helps to give you a grasp of their understanding. So I do recommend some face-to-face meetings. I'm finding that a lot of teams are quite happy and successful with text. So there's nothing wrong with using text as a means of chatting. And you did mention time zones, Dr. Lochran, and one of my teams in my current class has a student in California, a student in Montana, and then 2 students on the East Coast. And they rave about each other and how well they've come together as a team. The time zones have had no issue. They text each other, and whether it's 8 o'clock in one place at midnight in another, they seem to get immediate responses. So don't be concerned if you've got some people in different time zones. I think you covered, as I said, you did a great job in covering the simulation. So and it's already been addressed. The Capstone support people are outstanding, and this is a marvelous simulation. And I really, as you mentioned, I really do think that the students will enjoy it. Thank you.
Great. I'm going to open up just for a second. We have more to cover as far as the Capstone project, but I'm going to answer a couple questions now if anybody has a pressing question student-wise about the simulation. And I can't see anybody, so you just go ahead and start.
Hi, this is Akia. I didn't have any questions about the simulation, but you mentioned that there's going to be 2 papers. Are those collaborative, or are they like individual papers?
So the ones that I mentioned were related to the simulation, and they're collaborative. Okay. And so they're a team project. And so those are basically on how the team is doing, meaning related to your performance and what's going well, not going well, and so on. So it's really, you could think of it as a letter to the stakeholders of the organization. Okay. So you could feel better. You will have individual papers, which I'm going to go into in a moment, but those are the team ones.
Okay, thanks.
Other questions?
So nothing in the chat.
Either I did a good job or you're totally overwhelmed. Just relax. It's going to be okay. We know that there's we have a very high success rate overall, not just with the simulation, but even with the next part I'm talking about. And so if you do, your part, and I always like to think of it as eating an elephant, one bite at a time. Don't think about, gosh, he's covered so much. This class is really a lot more involved than some of the others. And rightly so. I mean, it is the capstone, so we are trying to bring all your learning together, but it is manageable. Just get it down to one step at a time, and not to overwhelm yourself. And so the capstone project, this is the one where you select what you want to focus on. And so this is something you're going to be working right from the get-go from the course. And for the early part, the first week, you're going to be able to select your topic. And so you have a couple of options here about what to write on. But bottom line is you're going to be writing a 20-page paper before the course ends. So throughout the entire course, you're going to be writing in sections. So in the beginning, you're just telling the instructor what you're going to write on. You're going to get it approved, and then you're going to be doing drafts throughout. And so 5 pages here, 5 pages on and on. And when you're all said and done, it's a 20-page paper, and then along with a 10-minute presentation. And so don't think of it as, oh, I got to write this 20-page paper at the end. No, you'll be writing this paper throughout the class. And so the options that you have, and this is probably one of the most important decisions you're going to make in the entire course, is what your project's going to be. And so the project can either be a business plan or a business proposal. A business proposal would mean that you have an idea to improve something. And when I say improve something, you could be looking at something that is currently not running as effectively as it could be in an organization, or it could be some kind of opportunity to do something different. Perhaps a new market that you want to focus on, a new segment of the market, some sort of new process, or so on, but something to enhance, take advantage of an opportunity, or improve a problem. And sometimes students ask me, what's the difference between a problem and an opportunity? And my answer, generally speaking, is depends if you're an optimist or a pessimist. I mean, they're really often the same thing. It just depends on the way you look at it. Now, there are times where you may have an opportunity to completely go into a new market, develop a product that you're not, or a particular segment of the market that you're not serving right now, which could be something that you focus on if you're marketing concentration. So that is a proposal. I would say that 80% or 85% of our students pick a proposal. The other is a business plan. A business plan means a new startup, an entrepreneurial type of effort. This could be a business of anything from we've had restaurants, we've had microbrews, we've had consulting companies to develop. We've also had nonprofits. It does not have to be a profit based company. It could be a nonprofit. We've had several students with the idea of their dream to start a nonprofit. And so with that said, you can go either way. There's a third way, and is that you could take something you learned in the program and just apply it in general. Like, you don't want to apply it to your organization or to any specific organization, but you think it could apply to any organization. And so one idea with that would be a social media strategic plan, and how you can utilize social media in a very strategic and way to increase the organization's performance, whether that be sales, efficiency, employee engagement, customer service, something like that. So thinking about, this is something that you are interested in as you're going through the program. Those are the three possibilities that you can choose. As I said, the proposal, something to improve something, or take advantage of an opportunity, is the most common. But we have plenty of students in the entrepreneur concentration that select a new business. But you don't have to be an entrepreneur. If that's your passion, then that's what you should pick. So I want you to really reflect for a moment and think about a couple things as you think about your idea. Number one, pick something you have passion for. That's beyond everything else. Do not pick something like, oh, well, I had to write about this in so many courses and I know it. I know all the researchers. I'm going to pick it. Or I currently work for so-and-so company and my boss wants me to do this project, so I think I'm going to pick it because I'm forced to do it anyway. Not a good reason. I mean, it's a good reason if you're passionate on it, but it's not a good reason if you're only doing it to appease someone else. We want you to pick something you care about, and both professors will know right off if you care about your topic or not. I can tell the way somebody writes if they care about it or not, if they're truly passionate. We even ask you that in the beginning is, do you have passion for this topic, and explain why you do. And so my hope is that you're already thinking about some things that you care deeply about. You know, our choice would be that you pick your current organization that you work for and apply it to them, but we know there may be reasons that you don't want to do that. Either maybe you're in between organizations, or you're going to be leaving shortly, or you're not passionate about your job, and so you may want to select something else. And so that's okay. I think we would always encourage you to pick your own organization, the one you currently work for, if that's feasible. But I realize all the professors realize that may not be the case. The other thing I want you to consider is, do you have access to the data that you need? And that's why we want to pick your own organization, because we don't want to we are not likely to approve if you just pick Apple or Tesla or something like that if you don't work there. Because where are you going to get the information? We don't want you to just go on the internet and hope to find what you can find. We want you to get the data you need for the actual proposal that you're going to focus on. We had a student a few terms ago. They came to us with their idea of a new soft drink for Pepsi called Peppermint Pepsi. I don't know if they even have a Peppermint Pepsi, but this particular student said he was passionate about peppermint, thought it was the greatest flavor, and was really missing the market. It doesn't seem appealing to me, but whatever the case was, he was passionate about it. But he did not work for Pepsi, had no understanding of the data, did not understand any research on peppermint and soft drinks and so on, did not work in the field. He just loved Pepsi and loved peppermint, and that's why he was going to pick it. That wouldn't be approved because he did not have access to any of that data, knew no one at Pepsi, and so could not get the adequate information that he would need to write a 20-page paper. So having access to the data that you would need to focus on the proposal that you want to develop, or the business plan. So if you're developing a new business, you need to be able to have access to associations that are part of that business, perhaps a competitor, or not a competitor, but somebody that might be doing this in another city across the country that might be able to give you some insight, and so on. So thinking about how you can get the information that you need to be able to use and make informed decisions as you go through and develop this. So you're going to be utilizing, the third thing you have to consider is you have to utilize what you've learned in the program. So we're going to ask that whatever topic you pick, it has to tie to your concentration. So if your concentration is marketing, it must be a marketing issue. You must be able to apply it to marketing. And so if you want to do a new business, you need to apply the marketing aspects of what you've learned in the program to your new business or to your proposal. If you're an entrepreneur, 99.9% of those folks go with the business plan. And then if you are project management, that pretty much opens the door to about any kind of proposal you can imagine, because they are going to become projects in some way. And you have to think about how can you apply your knowledge of project management to be able to develop a plan around something to improve something in the organization. So you're going to be using your business plan knowledge and procedures to be able to do that. And leadership sometimes students in leadership feel a little angst because they're like, how do I come up with an idea to apply leadership? Well, think about it for a second. I mean, doesn't anything I can imagine will apply to leadership in some way? How can you apply it? Whether it's the transformational leadership, whether it's servant leadership. Some of the ideas that I have seen over the years with leadership have focused on, we had a student do a consulting company where they were going to teach other organizations servant leadership. And that was going to be their specialty. We had another student on transformational leadership, and that was going to be their specialty in a consultant. We had one that was going to develop a leadership development program in their organization, focused on the different leadership skills that they learn in our program. And then also think about leadership. One of the also important aspects is change management, and thinking about how you could apply those skills in your proposal, or even in your business plan. We've had leadership students develop an entrepreneur type of project, as I mentioned, and maybe in some sort of consulting company. So those are just some ideas that I think can be very helpful to you as you start to think about where you want to go. So passion, number one, having resources, number two, connecting to your concentration, number three, and number four, it must have some sort of financial component to it. Many of our students will have some sort of cost benefit analysis. So if they're coming up with a proposal, how much is this going to save the organization and how much is it going to cost? So what are the different costs involved and what's the organization going to get as a return on investment with those costs? And it doesn't matter if you're talking about some kind of employee engagement strategy. We have a lot of leadership students that pick that one, and you could do a cost benefit analysis on that. But that often works for the financial component. The fifth part of this is that we want you to focus on strategy. And so we want you to go back to the Business 525 course, which all of you had. That's the strategy course where you learn goals and objectives. And remember, goals are big picture and smart objectives are tactics. And if you can't remember what I'm talking, or it's been a little bit, I highly recommend you go back and review that. And smart meaning specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. So these are tactics. How do you get this done? And so as you're starting to think about goals are big picture, this is what we're going to accomplish, and the objectives are how we're going to do it. And we're going to be able to show that it's very specific what we're doing. It can be measured. There's some kind of number. We know when we achieve it. And we also know, everybody's purpose, and we know that it can be done. It is achievable. And you give a date when it can be done. That's the time bound. And so you're going to be asked to do that as you develop that, because these tactics are really how something gets done. So the goals are what you want to accomplish, and the smart objectives are how you're going to go about it. And I know you learned this in 525, and you're going to apply it for this project. And so, as I also mentioned, bottom line, you're going to do a 20-page paper, but it's going to be written throughout the course, and you're going to have different drafts. So, one week it might be goals and objectives. The next week it might be the financial, and so on. And so at the end, you have the 20-page paper. You'll also do a 10-minute presentation that you're going to do on that. We do that as a YouTube video, and you'll upload that, and that'll be like you were presenting to the organization. If you are presenting to the leaders of the organization your proposal, or if you're doing a business plan, maybe it's investors, then this would be the presentation that you're going to do. So that's the Capstone project. I'm going to open up to Dr. Menon. Any comments on that?
Thank you, Jim. So basically, what I tell my students is to connect with me during the first week and come up, sort of have a discussion to come up with a project that is they're passionate about and will make a good opportunity to actually apply your concentration that is important to into the project and address all the other requirements like the strategic plan, the goals and smart objectives, and the financial part of the project. So I do have weekly 10-minute conversations with my students, at least until the week 5 or so, till they're well settled into the Capstone project. And that helps myself and also you to be in tune with what is required for each week. And one other thing I want to emphasize here is to read the requirements very clearly for each week. We have attached a PDF document that will actually help you to understand what is needed. Please go over the rubrics very clearly because that's what we're grading against, and make sure that you follow the rubrics and try to submit everything on time as we don't encourage late work. And I do understand sometimes your work comes in the way and things may get delayed, but stick to the timelines we have in the syllabus and submit on time. And I'm here to make your, entire Capstone journey successful. So never hesitate to reach out. I post my number. You can call me if I don't get it. I will return your call at a convenient time. And that's all I had, Jim. Thanks.
Yeah, and I just want to emphasize that this is not the course you want to get behind on. As you can see, everything kind of builds on each other. And, we do have a late policy. And it's not because we don't care. It's not because we don't, want you to be successful. We want you to be successful. We want you to stay on time. But I said the number one reason somebody doesn't pass is bad peer reviews. The number two reason is they get behind, they can't catch up. So we really want to keep you up. It doesn't get any easier when you get behind. So that's why you just want to keep up, have a good plan for yourself, be a good team member with the project, and you'll be working on this Capstone project for the whole 8 weeks. So you just kind of build it, know what you need to get done. If you really look at it in small drafts, it isn't really that overwhelming.
Sure.
So you'll have times that you have to get that done. All right,
Yep.
Dr. Ems.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Lochran. Just a couple of things. Dr. Menon covered one of the points that I wanted, and that was to in the early days, class starts Monday, sort of, and your first draft of your topic is due on the following Sunday. What I would say is you would probably want to come into Dr. Menon or myself, by Wednesday, Thursday with your idea. Just send a quick email. Here's what I'm thinking. What do you think? And right there we can probably decide whether it's going to be a go or not, so that you're not spending a lot of time if it's something that's really not feasible. So I would suggest that. The other thing I was going to say is that you want to have access to expertise. So depending on the size of your company, if it's a smaller company, will your manager be able to give you some time to help you with certain parts of the project, or your manager's manager? And obviously, if it's a large company, it might be as high as a vice president or a senior vice president. So you want to have access to expertise to help you in any of the areas that you're not fully well versed in. So be able to make sure you've got expertise available. And then the last one is just with regards to the financials. And I ran into this situation in one of my other classes, was that the individual was working for a private company, and this individual really wasn't allowed to share the financials. So one of the things you want to make sure of is that you're going to be allowed to include your company's financials in your report, which that happens in week 5, where you're to provide financials for your project. So you want to make sure right in week 1 that A, you have access to expertise, and B, that you will be able to share the financials. And And really and truly, as Dr. Lochran said, ideally, you want to do your project on your current company. Why? First of all, hopefully you will have passion for the project for your company. And the other thing is, this project may well, in fact, be a real win-win. Ideally, if you can come up with a new way of the company doing something, and they're able to use that, and they can save themselves a couple of $1 million a year, just think, what a shining light you're going to look like, when the project is input in your company. So that's why it's really important, if at all you can do your project on your current company, because as I said, it's a real win if if your company can take your project and actually use it. Thank you, Dr. Lochran.
You're welcome. And to your point, we had a student a few terms ago whose project was to reduce emergency room visits in the hospital. He was a hospital administrator, and they were overwhelmed with the amount of folks in the emergency room. And so he developed a strategic plan around that. And he was sent me a note, 6 months later or so, as saying that he was promoted based on that amount of savings that he did. They were so impressed with his project, with the ideas and the goals and smart objectives that he put together, that he was promoted to a very senior level position, and he really thanked this project and the amount of detail involved in it that really helped the organization and helped him with his career. And to Dr. M's point about an internal sponsor, it's certainly, I think that it really helps the networking in your organization to do that. It's a great idea. I realize, and we all realize, there's times where that just may not work, and so you're going to have to get that information for whatever reason. You don't have anyone that knows this expertise, or they're not willing to help you. But I would say try to get that right now and think about who that might be. And if you can't find anybody, maybe you think about another idea. But having somebody to help you with the data or get the information you need or help you understand the underlying issue better could be very helpful to you as you start to put a plan together. And then I'm going to go back and open up questions for students in a second, but I just want to end with, there's two other requirements. And one of them is a national exam that you do that on your knowledge, on your MBA knowledge. And this is a national exam. It's used for our accreditation. We are accredited by a business accreditor, and so we utilize this information to convey how we're doing. And so this assessment's really not about you, it's about us. And so we assess our outcomes, our overall macro numbers, and see how we're doing. So you're going to be asked questions about accounting, finance, business law, which you may never had a class, but human resources and so on. But we don't score you based on your score. We score you if you completed it within the time period that you were asked to do so. And so sometimes we'll have students email, I'm so disappointed. I really thought I learned, but I found out I'm average. Well, you know what? This is a national and actually an international exam used by MBA students throughout the world. And so you are going to be evaluated with folks from everywhere and from all different concentrations in MBA. And so you may be weak in certain areas and strong in other areas, and we aren't going to look at you any differently, nor should you look at yourself that way. So we're going to score you by completing it. So don't take it to heart. And then the second part of it is, and probably my favorite part of the entire course, is a reflection video. And that video is really your opinion about your experience in the MBA. And we've had some very inspiring videos, and we're going to put that up in the discussion board. And I want to stress, we do not have a traditional discussion board in this class, just to be clear. Most of your classes probably had discussion boards every week where you're answering at least one or two questions, or sometimes three. and it's 30% of your grade. We don't do that here. You got enough to do. We're not doing a discussion board. You do work within your group discussion board, within your team, but there's not questions that are asked every week. But in this week with the reflection video towards the end of the course, you are asked to reflect on your experience on the MBA here at Post. What went well, what didn't go well, what would you improve? What classes had the biggest impact on you and why. And I find it so inspiring because everybody has a story. Everybody has, maybe they're the first person in their entire family with a graduate degree. Maybe they've never imagined in their entire life that they would reach this point. And we have students that often say they felt like an imposter. It's called imposter syndrome, meaning that they never felt they were worthy enough to get to this level. And we had a student, a year now. So on her reflection video, she said, I went through a divorce a few years ago. My husband told me I wasn't smart enough to get this degree. And for many years, I believed him. And now I proved him wrong. I've gone on with my life. I've been promoted. This has really changed the way I view myself. And to me, that's the most important part of getting the graduate degree, is how you feel about yourself. And you will convey that to others and never forget that. And I found that very inspiring. And she also told me she was promoted because she felt that the reason she was is people viewed her differently, and she viewed herself differently after the degree. And so that to me is inspiring. I hope you enjoy it. We really enjoy viewing those. I'm going to open up to questions for students now. Alan, I'm not able to see. Do you see any questions or chats out there?
No, sir. We are silent.
So either we did a great job or everybody's just thinking about their topic right now, which is okay. That's perfectly fine. Just kind of reflect on it. But any last minute questions or anything we can help you with?
Oh, it says Jake is good. Dwayne is typing. Dwayne has no questions.
Mm-hmm.
Well, listen, we thank all of you for being here. I think we had a really good turnout tonight. So thank you for that. I want to thank Dr. Menon and Dr. Ems for being here. I know they're going to be, great instructors for you. So we thank them for being here. Alan, I thank you for putting it together.
My pleasure, guys. Thanks as always. And thank you, everyone, for attending.
Thank you, Alan.
Thank you.
Have a good night, everyone.
Thank you, Dr. Lochran.
Okay. Good night. Thanks.
Thanks.